Are you interested in learning how to shift to a new Earth? Are we too late to save ourselves in 2025? You'll want to hear this message. Not because the planet has physically split, but because consciousness has. According to hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon, humanity is undergoing a profound transition, one that does not happen with explosions or headlines, but quietly, internally, through awareness. She believed that two versions of Earth now coexist, one rooted in fear, control, and separation, and another emerging through compassion, unity, and expanded consciousness. You do not move between these Earths with your body. You choose with your frequency, meaning the way you live, whether it's in chaos or loving environment. You send out a vibration, a frequency, to attract more of the same. These were not the words of a science fiction writer or a modern influencer. Dolores Cannon spent more than 40 years working in deep trance hypnosis, guiding thousands of clients beyond the conscious mind. Through her quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT, she spoke to what she called the subconscious, what many would now describe as the higher self. If you are interested, I have a series of videos speaking on this very subject. Again and again, people from different countries, backgrounds, and belief systems reported the same message. A shift is happening. Earth is ascending, and humanity is choosing how to experience it. Dolores described this as the emergence of a new Earth, not a different planet. It's not a future timeline, but a parallel reality vibrating at a higher frequency. A world characterized by cooperation instead of competition, intuition instead of fear, and inner knowing instead of external control. This is why I spend 90% of my time on solutions and reading, studying and watching mostly about wellness and not the fear-based messages. I believe that is how we get out of the matrix. Now, Dolores also said the transition would not be instant. There would be a window of choice roughly between 2012 and 2025, during which humanity would gradually separate energetically. Could this be true? Or like Nostradamus, Dolores passed away before receiving new messages to share with us. Those who remained anchored in fear, power struggles, and materialism would continue experiencing a dense, chaotic reality. Those who aligned with compassion, self-awareness, and responsibility would begin perceiving a very different world. Not separate locations, separate experiences of the same world. I can definitely attest to this. I can meet old-time friends, and no judgment on my part, but they still live in fear. We do not have the same perspective about life at all, like night and day. I have stopped trying to convince anyone now on what they should or should not do. That is exhausting. I'm sure many of you will resonate with this. Dolores warned that as this divergence progressed, people on different frequencies would struggle to understand each other. Two people could stand side by side and experience completely different realities, different truths, different priorities, different perceptions of what matters. Look around. Isn't that already happening? She said we would recognize the shift through subtle signs, changes in how time feels. Emotional intensification, heightened sensitivity, and a deep sense that the old systems no longer work. Many people report that time feels faster, less linear. Days blur together. Events from years ago feel strangely recent. Dolores suggested this was a symptom of consciousness expanding beyond linear time. Others describe emotional purging waves of sadness, exhaustion, anxiety, or restlessness without obvious cause. In her sessions, Dolores's clients often describe these as Ascension symptoms. The body and nervous system adjusting to a higher energetic environment. This does not mean every emotional or physical struggle is spiritual, but it does suggest that meaning and fear can coexist, and discernment matters. She also spoke of Earth itself as a conscious being, what many traditions call Gaia, thinking Gaia means earth or land in ancient Greek. It is known as the name of the original Greek goddess who personifies Mother Earth. In this view, environmental upheaval is not punishment, but recalibration. A living system restoring balance as humanity is forced to confront the consequences of disconnection. Again, this perspective does not replace science. It adds a symbolic and spiritual lens to it. Another major theme Dolores emphasized was choice, especially as technology accelerates. She believed humanity was approaching a fork in the road, one path driven by mechanization, control, and disembodied intelligence. The other rooted in heart-centered awareness, creativity, and conscious use of technology rather than dependence on it. The question was never whether technology would advance. The question was whether consciousness would advance alongside it. In her work, illness often appeared not as random misfortune, but as misalignment between the life a person was living and the truth their inner self was trying to express. Here's a metaphysical, emotional, short explanation on a possible health issue one might have in life. Insight. Anxiety. A person who lives in the unseen world, they are always unsure of what is coming next. Sometimes they create an event that is non-existent. They never really live life in the now. In the moment instead, they live in the past or future. They can also be worrying about someone close to them. Understandably, the future is also mixed in with this field of energy, and that becomes troublesome. Also, it is a chaotic world around them, at least that is what they see. The best way to eliminate these worrisome thoughts is to be aware it can be better. One needs to change their beliefs and habits. The way to do this is to live in the now moment. It is way less clutter in the mind to handle. You can get through the day much easier if one lives and accomplishes chores or tasks in the day-to-day environment. Now, we all have our weaknesses, and one must not compare themselves with others. Meditation is a great way to connect with your inner source, as it will give you peace of mind. Trust the inner voice to guide you. It's a positive type of whispering voice. Always, always positive in nature. Don't be fooled by the voice that is negative in nature, as this is your ego trying to fool you. Listen to your gut feeling, also called your intuition. We all have this gift. We just need to develop this and listen to it. Healing, when it occurred, often followed emotional release, self-awareness, and internal coherence. The new earth, Dolores said, would not be built through force or revolution, but through resonance. Through people quietly withdrawing energy from systems that no longer align and creating new ways of living, relating, and contributing. This idea echoes other spiritual traditions. Edgar Cayce spoke of a coming age of heightened awareness. I love his teachings. Search him out also. It will be well worth it. Surrounding yourself with the right people can spark a whole new purpose in life, you know? Trust me, diving into wellness is a huge step toward feeling truly fulfilled. The law of one described. Earth is a school approaching a harvest where souls graduate by choosing service to others over service to self. Even ancient prophetic traditions speak of a time when humanity would be divided not by borders, but by consciousness. The message is consistent. No one is saved. No one is condemned. You choose through how you live. Dolores insisted that awakening is not dramatic for everyone. Many experience it quietly. A loss of interest in conflict. Deep pull toward nature. That was one of my personal choices to get out of the big cities and back to nature. Best move I ever made. A need for solitude. A desire to live more simply and truthfully. Others experience it as a breakdown before a breakthrough. Old identities dissolving, beliefs collapsing, life structures falling apart because they no longer match who the person is becoming. This is not failure, it is reorientation. She believed many souls alive today volunteered to be here during this transition not because it would be easy, but because it would be meaningful. Not to save the world, but to stabilize it by living differently. The new earth, as Dolores described it, is not something we wait for. It is something we practice. It appears wherever compassion replaces reactivity, where listening replaces judgment, where people take responsibility for their inner state instead of projecting it outward. You do not need special abilities. You do not need to escape society. You do not need to believe everything, Dolores Cannon said. You only need awareness. And how does one become more aware? Listen to your heart and always do something that brings you joy. That's the easiest method I know of. I have a series of videos that might help you understand this in a more profound way. Check them out if this resonates with you. Dolores said you would know you are aligning with the new earth not by what you see, but by how you feel. Sense of inner steadiness. A reduced need for external validation. A quiet confidence rooted in presence rather than certainty. The old world runs on fear and urgency. The new one runs on coherence. Both exist right now. The shift is not in the sky. It is in the nervous system. It is in how we respond instead of react. In how we choose curiosity over control. In how we remember that we are participants, not victims, of consciousness. Dolores Cannon often said, "There are no coincidences, only choices. Every thought is a tuning fork. Every action reinforces a timeline. The world is not ending. And times might just have been a scare tactic used for centuries now. It is differentiating. And the question is not whether a new Earth exists, but whether you are willing to live as if it does. That indeed is the ultimate question to ask ourselves, and again a choice." Now, if ever you would like to learn more about Dolores Cannon's work, maybe follow her daughter Julia Cannon, a visionary healer and renowned hypnotherapist herself, shares her profound insights on unlocking your inner potential. As a seasoned, registered nurse, Julia has witnessed firsthand the limitations of traditional medicine. I find her teachings simple to understand. Through her work with her mother and her own intuitive guidance, she has discovered a revolutionary approach to health and well-being. If you've enjoyed this video, subscribe and share it with friends. And be sure to check out my series on YouTube, which brings you to a whole other level of understanding how your habitual thinking and imagery literally molds and creates your destiny. See you there!